Okay, yes, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen from all over the world. And welcome to the meeting, our September meeting of the Joint Hong Kong Study Circle and Hong Kong Philatelic Society on Zoom. And tonight's, or this morning or this afternoon's meeting, the theme is show and tell. So I'm sure that there are several members who have material to show and tell us all about their research and materials in the collection. Okay, anyway, yes, it's it's been a very quiet August. We have nothing going on because it's usually it's so-called what we call a summer vacation here, and everybody had a well-deserved rest. A few things to announce just before we start the meeting proper. The dues, both society, both the Hong Kong Study Circle and Hong Kong Philatelic Societies, the membership subscriptions. We will send the form out to you, and hopefully you can pay as soon as possible to subsidize the running of the society. And then, of course, I would like to thank our the editor, the Hong Kong Philatelic Society editor, Professor Shaw, and he won a large Vermeer medal at the recently concluded Philatelic FIAP stamp exhibition in Japan. So it was a very, very good achievement for the Philatelic Society journal. And our secretary, Stephen Chan, I think he's not here today, and his book, he's also written a book on Macau. It's all the anecdotes and usually stories about Macau stamps and postal history. His book also won a Vermeer medal. Yeah, so, and of course, there's a third person who is also a member of the Hong Kong Philatelic Society, George Yu. I'm sure you know who George Yu is, the CEO of Spink. You know, he wrote a book on the China exhibition, and that scored a large silver. So we got 3 medals at Philatelic, and well, congratulations to all 3 of them. Well done.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Andrew, did anybody from Hong Kong actually visit Philatelic?
No, because it's there are so many restrictions because of the COVID. And as you know, you probably, if you watched the Olympics, you know, there was quite a lot of cases, new cases every day. So actually,
I think there is in fact one member.
Yeah. The
name is Johan Arklans.
Yes.
It is British definitive.
Okay.
And got the large medal.
All right. Okay.
But I think that he went there himself.
Oh, he went there himself to deliver.
When the quarantine, I think.
Yes.
So, yeah. So he just went there himself.
Okay.
Also, I want to take this opportunity to thank the members' contribution to the journals. And we are in fact soliciting articles for the 2022 journals.
Yes.
So I look forward to your contribution again.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. We got the message. Yeah, I got a memo from the CAPEX 2020 next year, right? 2022. Would Ingo would like to say a few words about your exhibition?
Andrew, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? No. How about now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yes. Yeah. CAPEX 2022. Have you got anything to tell us? Any news?
There are some news about COVID. Canada has been able to open its borders to visitors again starting September 7th. There are protocols that have to be followed to enter the country, but we're open for business to have visitors coming to Canada. And that was really big news because there's a lot of people that were sort of deciding, should I go or shouldn't I go? But it looks like, you know, I won't say we have COVID fully under control. That's going to take a long time. But there's measures in place. People are allowed to come in. And the big thing is that it's very important that the visitors are doubly vaccinated.
What do you mean doubly vaccinated? 2 jabs or two different kinds?
2 jabs.
Oh, 2 jabs.
Yeah, no,
okay.
two jabs.
Okay, because you know, I saw the memo and saying that there are some jabs from manufacturers are not recognized by the Canadian authority, and the big problem here in Hong Kong is that a lot of people received Sinovac, which is one of the amongst those that are not recognized. So now the big problem is you have two jabs of Sinovac, and then nobody can say whether you can have another dose of Pfizer or something.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there are some restrictions and some regulations, and the kind of vaccine that you've had is part of that process. So yeah,
well, it can't
I can't.
you know, if it's a government regulation.
Pretty soon we'll be
to,
having 3 jabs. We've just been advised here that all over 50s will get booster jabs before Christmas.
Really?
Pfizer or Moderna.
And those restrictions on the kinds of vaccines that are accepted by the government of Canada are not etched in stone. Maybe the Sino vaccine and the Indian one and so on will get approval in time for CAPEX. We don't know that, but
still a few months to go.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, let's hope. Let's hope that's the situation, because you know, really, so there's a lot of people who originally had the Sinovac and now decided that oh dear, you know, there's some places they cannot go. Anyhow, so we change the subject slightly to the Repton. Recently, the study circle has had a meeting at Repton. And I think either Duncan or Susan's going to give us a little report on the meeting, just a brief words about the meeting. Susan or Duncan?
Hi everyone. There was an actual meeting at Repton on the 4th of September. Yes. Yeah, although of course Russell wasn't there, his widow was very kind to entertain us. She gave us refreshments before the meeting started and at the end. We had a new venue which was very suitable, plenty of fresh air in it. It was just a few minutes walk away. There were 6 members and several guests. We saw material on censorship, First World War censorship with PBC markings, material from Mui, an Air Orient display, 1 cent Victorian postal station cards, and some Hong Kong Victoria material. A good display for all of us. A full report, if you want to read it, will be in the Hong Kong Study Circle journal when it comes out.
Wonderful, Susan. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. With the Hong Kong Philatelic Society held its first physical meeting last month at Mr. Kwan's office, and Professor Shaw did a display on the COVID stamps, and it was a good meeting, and we had an auction afterwards, which Malcolm Hemsley, the chairman, kindly donated, well, not quite donated, but he got a lot of wonderful material for members to buy, and it was very, very good meeting. So the next meeting actually will be Also in Mr. Kwan's office in Jardine House, I think in about 4 days time. Just after, I think just after the Mid-Autumn Festival, which is next week, early next week. Anyway, without further ado, I think we shall start the meeting now. And oh, maybe Susan, since you are already warmed up for the meeting, why don't you start your presentation, Susan? To you.
I can't get to the slideshow. I'm dropping it across. Slideshow.
That I have to get mine down first.
Yeah. Right. I'm showing mail actually sent by the post office. I got a group of covers that are bulletin de verification covers. These were sent from various post offices in Hong Kong, and in this case they were sent to Brisbane, Australia. They contained a form, a CN43 form, and that had in it any notification of errors or irregularities that the post office, the receiving post offices had observed. They were all sent between 1979 and 1986. The first one has an inward parcel section, Hong Kong General Post Office section, cachet. It was posted on the 11th of September and reached Brisbane on the 23rd. This one has a postal services branch cachet. And again, it was posted at the GPO 25th of April and reached Brisbane on the 29th.
Susan, is that
Yes?
R in red? I'm assuming that's an Australian marking,
I'm assuming that too, yes.
because if it's Hong Kong, that would be a discovery, because I don't think that
Yes,
is
I
listed
think
anywhere.
they're all Australian, and they're all registered covers. This one has got the Post Office Airmail Centre cachet at the airport. Again, this time it was posted at Kowloon City. Posted on the 23rd and reached Brisbane on the 28th. A similar cachet here. This time it's the Kowloon City 5 date stamp. This is later than Proud, actually. Proud's latest date is for 1983. This is 1985. This one was sent from Kai Tak Airport. And it's got the Kai Tak Airport 1 date stamp there. This from the International Mail Centre, and it's got the IMC date stamp there and its arrival. Of course, they don't have are the contents, which was the CN43 form. This is a summary of the cachets posted at the GPO, Kowloon City, Kai Tak, and the International Mail Centre. I haven't been able to find a CN43 that was used in the early 1980s. This is a modern one from the UPU website. It's a 2-page document. This is a close-up and it shows you the sort of things they put in, number of receptacles, what was entered and what they actually received, or the weight of registered items that were entered as being there and what were actually received can be quite different. So it will be filled in like that. At the end, there's a signature for the person who sent it and the person who received it. And they've got to say whether they accepted irregularities or rejected them. And there was a section to whom it must be returned, which is probably why these sort of things don't seem to come on the market. I've never seen one filled in. Which brings me to my final slide. Can anybody tell me where I can get a scan of one that was used in the early 1980s? It would be nice to have an example to go with the covers. Thank you.
They would be internal, right?
Yeah.
Internal documents.
Yes, yes. Presumably they are sort of kept and for further reference.
Yes, yeah.
Why they don't come on the market.
Yeah. Well,
Did I see? Sorry, did I see correctly? I thought the writing of Brisbane in Australia on the covers was all the same hand. Is it possible that?
Well, they came from different places, so I wouldn't have thought so.
Well, when you have a chance, maybe you can go back and look. Maybe I'm just mistaken.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'll have a look later and see, but I assume seeing they're coming from all the different post offices, that wouldn't. They would, whoever posted them would put Brisbane on.
Susan, that's a nice collection of these things. They're very, very hard to find because, as you say, it's post office to post office mail, which doesn't usually come out into the market. Here in Brampton, Ontario, where I live, our local stamp club had a guy who worked at the post office. And one day, many years ago, he brought in a big shopping bag full of these BV forms, Bulletin de Verification, from all over the world.
Oh, great.
And they were going to throw them out. And he just grabbed the bag and brought it and said, maybe some of my stamp buddies in Bramalea will like them. So we have amongst us a big cache of them. I, of course, and John Robertson, we sort of picked out all the Hong Kong ones. But I'm curious to know, how did you find out that it's the CN43 form that's the content of those things? Because I've tried to study these things and I can't find much about them.
I went online. I put in Bulletin de Verification and the UPU website comes up and it tells you all the details about the CN43 and how to fill it in.
Very good. I mean, I did Google it too, and I ended up at the UPU site, but I must have missed that part of the regulations. But anyways, that's really cool. So now the hunt is on for a CN43.
Some of those you've got aren't early ones, are they? There's nothing in there in your envelopes or anything.
No, I checked them all. They were all empty. And it's the similar date range, early 80s. There's a few in the late 70s. The ones from the different countries are really fascinating because Hong Kong obviously had some printed forms, as you showed. Some countries didn't have anything printed, and some of these were really primitive. And some post offices, like the Soviet Union, they used overstocked first day covers. It's unbelievable, the variety of material. I'll show it sometime if you're interested in non-Hong Kong stuff, but there's some really fascinating ones in that.
Yeah, I bet they were really popular among your members.
Yeah.
Susan, have you tried to find postal guides?
Postal
guides for the years that you have them for?
I haven't.
They may have the forms.
No.
They may have the forms.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No, I don't know. This one, I think, was 2001. It was introduced, so that it,
they have postal guides all the way through to today.
Oh yeah, we've got some 50s.
We've got some 50s. back to 1952.
Maybe
but
maybe the Hong Kong Post Office, if you contacted them, I'd be very surprised if they don't have a library of post, 80s, 90s, whatever.
You can actually find some of the guides in the at Central Library. They have a stock, but it's never the full range.
Yeah, that's right.
I've seen.
If anybody finds any for the 30s and 40s, then please let me know, because I've been searching for years.
Richard, I will not be surprised if the Hong Kong Post Office do not keep any library of any forms of stocks. They intend to throw them away or sell all those valuable things to members of a certain society, or put it to eBay. even including the c.d.s.
Yeah. Or maybe from the Public Record Office in Kwun.
Yeah, maybe. Well, in fact, I have a few comments on the some of the covers. I remember that there is a cover with a single ring c.d.s Hong Kong post from GPO with index number 2. That was a counter that normal people can walk in and post registered mails. So that implied that the staff or the clerk having the duty to post that letter, walk down to the counter to post that letter. That is a little bit surprised to me. I suppose they just went to the back office and dump it into the certain responsible staff, and then chop it in the back end and put it into the postal bag. And you can see that there's another cover post from ML Center. The clerk went to Kowloon City Post Office to post that letter. It's a little bit surprised to me.
Yeah, all the ones that I have are GPO. I was even surprised to see, IMC and Kowloon, and definitely Kowloon City. It's
right, but ML Center was closer to Kaita Airport than Kowloon City Post Office, I suppose. But I originally, if I did not see those covers, I just assumed that the clerk would just dump those covers to the back office of AMC and then chop it by certain staff at the back end. But it's apparently he needed to go to the a certain branch office or go to the accountants to go through the registration process.
Presumably, though, this would reflect where they kept registration registers, if you see what I mean, the actual physical book that they record all the registered letters in. I think in those days it still probably was a book.
Yeah, perhaps that's the reason. Yeah, you're true.
As far as copies of postal guides, it's a shame that John Wilson is not part of our discussion, but John is still working, so that explains why. But some years ago, he made a trip to Hong Kong, and he sort of dove into the archives out there and came back with tons of photocopies. It might be worthwhile contacting him and finding out what he has and maybe what he saw, and then going from there. Looks like I shocked everyone.
No.
I had dinner with John Wilson on that trip, and I have the ones that he found. So, and I have other ones as well, including some from Ted Proud's library, which was closed down. But I don't really have the ones from the 30s and 40s, which is extremely annoying because that would unsolve quite a lot of stuff at branch offices and things like that. And also it would sort out late fees for airmail, which I don't think many people realise, but there were late fees for airmails in the 30s.
Good. So while Duncan is sharing the same computer with Susan, I think Duncan has some things that he wants to show us.
Right. I originally showed this to, I suppose, the last London meeting of the Hong Kong Study Circle, and Richard was there, and Richard took away a copy of the sheets I put up and came back with a lot more information, as did KK Ho, who keeps me supplied with extracts from Hong Kong newspapers. But I do collect crash mail of Imperial Airways anyway, but these are all limited to the feeder service. The first one is Dorado, which left Hong Kong okay, but then discovered its radio was not working properly. It came back to Hong Kong, and by the time the problems had been fixed, it was too late to leave again, so it left early the next morning, but arrived too late to make the original connection, connecting instead with the next trunk route. As a slightly more interesting aspect, the actual trunk flight was the first time that the Empire flying boats flew all the way from Alexandria to Southampton. Prior to that, mail was flown to Brindisi, railed to Paris, and then flown to London. So this is first all air from Hong Kong through to Southampton as a bonus. So this is a rather strange reason for a delay, but the pilot was taken ill whilst flying the inbound service and was immediately hospitalised. Company regulations did not allow the co-pilot to fly a service on his own. There was no relief pilot in Hong Kong. They had to wait for one to come from Penang. Sadly, the other aircraft on the route, Dorado, was undergoing maintenance in Singapore, so Captain Ballantyne had to come by sea, and he didn't arrive in Hong Kong until the 15th of June. Left almost immediately for Penang, 4 days late. Because of the knock-on effect, although Delphinus flew straight back from Penang to Hong Kong, the next flight was also a day late leaving Hong Kong. So there's the original delay in the top left and the further delay to the next flight as well. It wasn't until few 66 that the schedules were back to normal. Weather often played a part, and this is a typhoon near Hainan which forced a flight to return to Hong Kong. The post office reopened the mail, so any mail posted on the 21st could also have been carried on the flight when it eventually departed. I've not found a 21st of August cover yet, but I'll keep looking. The bottom left, the cover was posted on a British ship, arriving in Hong Kong, franked with the British stamp and paying the British equivalent of the 50-cent rate from Hong Kong, which was 6 pence. The other covers addressed to Prince Valdemar and Princess Marie Fond of Denmark. I don't know who was sending it. I mean, Prince Valdemar was the youngest son of Christian IX, but his wife had died about 15 years before this cover was posted, so the sender was probably on the scrounge, but he certainly wasn't aware of her death. Right. This is going to be a recurring theme. The DH-86s were problematical in that at low speed, the rudders were totally ineffective. So both taking off and landing could cause problems. The engines all turn the propellers in the same direction, so the engine torque tended to make the aircraft swing off the center line of runways. And the slower it got, the more likely it was to happen. And you find a number of occasions where they allegedly overshot the runway or drift off. It happened on the West Africa service, which used the same aircraft, but this is an incident in March 1938 when Delphinus did this at Fort Bayard. Hopes of sending Daedalus out to pick up the stranded mail were dashed by bad weather. It arrived late in Hong Kong, and it didn't actually reach Bangkok until the 13th of March. This is simply a bad weather delay in Hong Kong, which meant the mail left 2 days late and missed the normal connection. There's a single weight and a double weight item there. This was meant to be the first service to operate through to Bangkok in one day. Sadly, that didn't happen because the aircraft developed engine problems at Hanoi, and the mail was stranded there until the 18th of April when Dorado flew through operating the next service and carried a combined mail to Bangkok. There's a picture of Dorado and it's on its Hong Kong service with its name in Chinese as well as English on the nose. It had a number of problems in the 1930s with aircraft catching fire when the engines were being started. Athena had been burnt out at Delhi as a result of this, and it was subsequently found that they'd wrongly connected a cylinder of oxygen rather than compressed air to turn the engines over. In this case, the passengers escaped from the aircraft through the emergency hatch above the cockpit roof and had to descend from the top wing, and one of the Chinese employees who broke his leg jumping from the wing to the tarmac was the only injury sustained, but the aircraft was too badly damaged to be used for the service and they had to wait for a relief aircraft. The mail went next day. Lloyd's Daily List is a quite useful source. The version I've got comes out of the Guildhall Library in London, where our friend fortunately photocopied all the relevant pages for me, but it does list all shipping and aircraft accidents on a day-by-day basis. It's not always totally accurate, but it usually gives you an indication of where things might have gone wrong and where you might look for covers. Another case of a pilot being taken ill en route into Hong Kong. The mail again was delayed, didn't fly out until the 7th of September, with a total of 454 kilograms, which is a heavy mail. Made things worse, the flying boat operating the service from Bangkok also had problems at Jiwani and then was held up by bad weather, so the mail had quite an adventurous journey to the UK. Another landing accident at Bangkok where the aircraft drifted and damaged the undercarriage and the right wingtip, but no damage to mails or passengers. The black bars across the etiquette show that the cover was sent on from Marseille to Hamburg by surface. This has a Brindisi transit, and mail for Switzerland was normally sent on by rail from Italy. This is the end of Daedalus. It safely carried the mail to Bangkok, but then was undergoing maintenance prior to operating the service back to Hong Kong. And again, the aircraft caught fire when the engines were started. Again, the inquiry found they'd wrongly used oxygen cylinder, but that was Daedalus gone, and instead the next mail into Hong Kong was flown by Dardanus, which had arrived unexpectedly with an extra Christmas mail from Calcutta. More problems taking off, this time from Fort Bayard. Swung on takeoff and damaged the undercarriage and the lower right wing. This time Denibola was actually available in Bangkok to come as a relief aircraft, and it came immediately, and managed to get back to Bangkok the same day, so the connections were made. This is the very famous one. I've got to thank KK for supplying me with this cover. In November 1939, Dardanus was forced down by the Japanese Air Force whilst flying near Wei Chau Island. They fired on the aircraft, allegedly because they mistook it for a Chinese fighter. How many 4-engine biplane fighters the Chinese used, I don't know, but fortunately the crew were not hit and neither were the passengers, but there was a lot of diplomatic toing and froing before the aircraft and the mails were returned, and it's not possible to know when this was finally forwarded. It could have been part of the mail that came back earlier, but it might very well have been the mail that was the main batch of mail that came back on the 24th. The last item, another problem with takeoff, this time from Udon in Siam. No injuries, but the usual delay to the mails, a need for a relief aircraft. You can see they went to some lengths to try and indicate to the Japanese Air Force that it wasn't a Chinese aircraft, with Union Jacks prominent on the upper part of the wing and on the tailplane, but they seem to have had problems recognizing them. So that's it.
Thank you, Duncan. Wonderful. Well, I mean, that's truly is research, because I mean, you know, any one of us could have had some of these covers, you know, and you know, without knowing the background, you know, one would know that those covers were carried by these aircrafts. So thanks very much, Duncan. I think you should actually write an art. Have you written an article about this interesting subject?
Some of them are in the book. There's extra information there. I might get round to it.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
KK knows as much
Duncan.
about this as I do.
Yes.
Duncan, I like the franking on that one all up cover with the 2 5s and 3 2s with a 1 cent overpayment. That's
Yes.
a very, I've never seen that franking for that rate.
Mm.
It's presumably just somebody a convenience franking it, what they had in their wallet, and
Yeah.
Great. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions before we move on? Okay. Right. So the next to give us a presentation will be Richard. Are you ready?
Hope so. Let's see.
yes, it's interesting.
Okay, just give me a second. Yeah, this was a bit of a rush, but hopefully not too many errors. I've done this in 2 parts. I finished the second part 5 minutes before this meeting. The first part is to show a couple of covers I've got, which are World War II sensor covers, RAF. These are quite rare, but let's go. The 2 that I've got are Dane Type 4, which has the number 36. I'll show that in a moment. And there are 11 covers recorded of these, and it's the latest type of RAF sensor marking on Hong Kong mail. By that time, there was hardly any RAF in Hong Kong at all, with virtually no planes, and mainly they were construction outfit. And it's thought that this number 36 was mainly used by Air Force engineering and construction. elements. So here's the first one. And you can see the RAF sensor 36. It's the airmail to Canada, which is also rather unusual for this kind of material. And posted on the 28th of March, 41, from Flight Lieutenant Taylor, presumably to his girlfriend or whatever. The next one is the 10th of April, was sent by sea to the same lady. And you can see hidden under the Canadian censored tape is the RAF sensor marking with the same sensor officer. I haven't found this gentleman yet, but that's just overload on my part, so I'll get there eventually. So these are the two that I've got, and I think there's only about 11 of these. And the three different types are like this. Dane got them the wrong way around number-wise. He's got 4 as the latest and 6 as the earliest, but we'll forgive him for that. And the first type started as soon as censorship was introduced in September 1939, and this 87. These types of markings were used all over the RAF world, British RAF world at that time. And unlike the Army ones and the Navy ones, apart from one Navy item, that where the Army one in particular is unique to Hong Kong. This was not the case with RAF. It just had unique numbers. So for the earliest type, 6, I've recorded 15 covers, or 15 covers have been recorded, and I have in my files 13 of them. Not personally owning them, but I have scans and so on. The second type, type 5, only 3 covers have been recorded, and I have scans of those from various people. And the final one, number 36, which I have 2, there's 11 recorded, and I have 6 of them so far. So that's RAF. I think that RAF, 1 or 2 of the Navy ones are quite rare, but as an entity, the RAF ones are rarer than the Army and Navy ones. So that's the first part. And then for something completely different, 1946, 47, registered covers to the USA with jusqua markings. I've collected these over the years, but I've never really got to grips with them and written them down and all that stuff. So this is something for me to do. So please, this is a work in progress, and please don't bid against me when these come up on eBay. Ingo.
I've got my 1.
You got your 1. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's start. There are two kinds of jusqua labels. The Air to USA only, shown here, was the earliest one, in September to end of 1946. These by Air to wherever onlys were evident pre-war and post-war, and were associated with what became known as offices of exchange, which I think most people will know that. But I've only ever seen these on registered mail, and they are quite difficult to get hold of. So this is by air to USA only. I think Nick in his book only recorded one, which was a different date to this one. Sorry, I'm being attacked by a wasp. Yeah, sorry. Then the second type is by air throughout. And I have a few of these. So I'll just put them together. Not all of them, just a few of the ones I've got. The first one on the top left is dated 22nd of May. And this was $3.05, $2.80 plus 25 cents registration. This was the first flight by Philippine Airlines to San Francisco. All the other markings before that were via London and New York. The next one is 8th of August, just to show. Then August 47 in the top. What I have done with the help of Sam Chu and John Tang, I had a look at these air throughout markings, and there's, I think, at least 5 different sizes of markings. So there's 5 subtypes which have never been recorded or written down. Here, further ones, 5th of August, 23rd of April, 47. This one was just by air throughout and was posted at the General Post Office on the 1st of April, 1947, has a New York transit of 12th of April and a Cleveland arrival of the 15th. I've highlighted this one for reasons which I hope will become apparent shortly. Now, the interesting thing is that these individual jusqua markings appear on individual covers, but I have 3 covers that have both of them on, which, for example, this one is dated the 2nd of April. You can see that it has both the air to USA only and by air throughout. And then I have another one that went on the same day, 2nd of April, with same types of markings, and it went on the same plane. You can see by the transit on the 12th, and arrived in Minnesota on the 15th. And another one dated the 3rd of April, 47, has both markings, and it too went on the same plane. 12th, New York, and Philadelphia, the 13th. So something strange happened, because the by air to USA only marking had stopped being used sometime before. So I wonder why it came in, and it's only on one flight. Just going backwards, you can see here that this one only had one of the markings and was posted in the GPO on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. And it too went on the same plane. So it has New York 12th and Cleveland 15th. So as I say, I haven't really got to grips with these things properly yet. So if somebody has some ideas, it'd be great. But my initial thoughts are that on the 1st of April, things were going as usual. And then on the 2nd of April, something happened. And within the USA, possibly, then it wasn't guaranteed that there was an air service. And it only happened for this one flight. It was also Easter, from my memory a few years ago. I think they all went out at Easter. So I have yet to sort this out, which is why I've never come forward with it before. But I will do so in due course. So that's it.
I have a question. If you go back several slides where you had 2 covers and the bottom, yes, there we go. They seem to have crossed out by stamping on top of it something else on there. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I think this one has 3 strikes of by air throughout. So the one on top of the other,
yes,
has 2 strikes of by air throughout, and then there's another one on its own at the bottom.
Right. Okay. No, I just thought that was interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Thank you.
Yes, Richard, do you think the cachet was only applied on the top cover of the bundle, or was it on every cover?
I think it was not on every cover, because I have got somewhere hidden away covers with no markings on the same flight as ones that have, but I don't have that to hand.
Yeah.
I believe it was just at the registration desk, perhaps at the end of the day or end of the morning or something like that. They had a bunch of 20. The difficulty for people who study these things is that there are a lot of private markings as well. So you can find some airmail throughout that were put on company covers. You can see here on the left, this was, I'm not sure where this one came from, but it has by air throughout stamped on the top in the center, along with the GPO type of by air throughout on the left. And I believe that this one
is a private mark.
Private one. And you can find them to Scandinavia in the late 40s, early 50s, where companies like Jebsen used to stamp their mail.
Great.
Right.
Good. Any other questions?
Richard, the RAF sensor type 6,
yes.
the very early date, and I have a similarly early date from Nairobi, which is where I really collect these things.
Yes.
For the RAA station there. I mean, that to me suggests that those things must have been prepared before the outbreak of war and possibly even distributed to the stations before the outbreak of war. Does that make sense?
Well, I think so, yes, because I mean, when was 5th, I think, wasn't it 5th or something like that? The declaration.
3rd was the actual declaration.
Oh, right.
I mean, civilian censorship around the empire was actually introduced before the outbreak of war.
Yes.
In Africa, it's about the last couple of weeks of August they were introducing civilian censorship.
Not in Hong Kong.
No, that was Africa.
Yes. To answer your question, I believe you're right, yes. Because there's no way our illustrious armed forces could get themselves organized to distribute all of these things around the world. There's many of them with different numbers in 9 days or whatever. And army censor ones in Hong Kong didn't start for some time after September.
Yeah.
Navy was similar to the RAF, but that was done more on individual ships to start with.
Thanks.
Okay,
Pleasure.
thank you.
Pleasure.
Right. Any other questions before we move on to the next presenter? Okay. Yes, I think Sam's got something to tell us. Over to you, Sam.
Okay, is this showing?
Nearly.
My connections is really bad. Is this showing right or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So well, it's a couple of things that's been bugging me. That's why I'm actually asking. Is actually show and ask, you know. So you know, of course, the two most important ML researcher for Hong Kong is right here. So I'm just quoting them. So I was very happy when I got hold of this. So this is Duncan's. So Duncan in his book, you know, I just scanned this from his book. So anyway, it's this particular flight that I have been looking for covers, and I found one, the one that I like, and it was actually surprising. So according to this New York Times clip, which was on the 6th, it referred to yesterday. So on the 5th of November, they were supposed to, you know, the clipper was supposed to leave from Manila and so on. But of course, you read it, it's because of this special envoy that they were holding the plane, and it was postponed for 2 days, and it didn't leave until November the 7th. And the envoy would get into Washington by November 17. So, and from the web, this is what I could get. This is a special envoy Karushu. So this was after the meeting at the White House with FDR. Now this was when he came in, so you could see the propellers. So I suspect this was in San Francisco. It didn't say so, but it looks like it's off the clipper in San Francisco. So this is what Proud said, and of course, after Richard taught me, you take everything Proud right with a grain of salt because of the possible inaccuracies. So according to this, the Hong Kong Clipper 2 would have flown mail into Manila. And according to the newspaper, it was supposed, the Singapore flight got into Manila on the 5th, and it would have departed on the 5th of November. But according to that, it was hold for 2 days until the 7th. And eventually, according to this, it got into San Francisco, November the 15th, with a delay in Midway because of engine trouble. Now, this is Richards. And again, November the 7th, it departed Hong Kong, and it arrived in, according to this, November 15th. Now, this is the cover I got. And the reason why I've been always trying to see if I could get a registered cover, because then it would give me the first port of entry, which is Hawaii. So this at 4 p.m. November the 5th in Hong Kong, it departed. So disregard what this pencil thing says. This was from an auction house. It says 2 days before invasion of Hong Kong. Of course, it's not accurate. So anyways, the LR marking, but surprisingly, it received a marking November 14. But both references from Prow and Richard says November the 15th. So, this is something that maybe Richard would take on and then maybe change it or confirm it if this was an error in this, or it did arrive 1 day earlier. So that's the end of it. I'm just very happy to get one of those covers, so. Now, the other question is, this I got recently, and it's from a local person, and this is the first day cover of Mui Wo, so you could see how bad the skeleton marking is. This is the first day, but before that, I already had the Peter Shack one. So that was, the last one was EFGs, and this one is Peter Shack. So this one also have a stripe. So my question is it because of just under inking, or is it the placement? Because there's so many people now who's studying this, so I'm just posing the question here. Is it poor strike is pretty common, or is it pressure? Is it inking? Or is there something that dealt with the placement, how deep the letters was put in there? So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, any views?
Any help?
I'm just trying to find my stuff on this. Just give me 1 second, and then I can show you. What was the date you had, Sam?
November 14, arrival. Rather than 15. Because this is what you have, 194. And this is what Prow has.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. For the departing one, then
so Duncan, yeah. So you also have 2 flights, because you have a flight that departed the earlier 193, departed just on the 4th.
Oh, okay. If I share my screen, I'll show you what I got.
Okay.
If I can manage that. Oh Christ, what's happened?
I'll go and have a look at the handwriting.
Right. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
So 194, what do we got? Then according to the Manila newspapers, it departed Hong Kong 8:34 a.m. on the 7th of November. And according to mail notices in the South China Morning Post, it arrived on the 5th of November. It was held for 1 day, waiting for cruising.
Thank you.
And it connected with a homeward bound China clipper that departed Manila on the 7th. And I've seen covers, maybe it's yours, with Honolulu 12th of November and San Francisco 14th of November. Date stamps.
I think the problem might be that the Hong Kong papers and the American ones are reporting on different days, in that the flight crosses the international date line.
Yes, that's where Proud, as you know, got the
Where
Proud
Proud
stuff with some of that.
I suspect San Francisco the 14th is actually Hong Kong the 15th.
Correct.
But it just depends on which source you've used to.
Yeah.
In America, on American time, it arrives on the 14th of the 11th. Hong Kong time, it would find out to be the 15th.
I've tried to use all local time. So for the Hong Kong stuff, I've used Hong Kong newspapers and Manila papers. And then for the San Francisco one, I've not finished that part, but I finished the Hong Kong end. But for San Francisco, use, East Coast, is it East Coast? Yeah. Times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments for Sam, especially the Mui Wo? Yeah, my covers are like that too. The Mui Wo is not is badly registered. So,
is it just the first day one was really bad?
Yeah, that's right.
You could hardly see it.
That's right. That's right.
So you have similar one on the first day?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hardly.
That's what I want to know.
But subsequently becomes clearer. The later covers. So I think it might be, maybe it's to do with the ink pad or maybe the setting, as you say, the setting of the. If you've seen, I've circulated the picture of at the skeleton postmark itself. I mean, the fonts were actually inserted into spaces, and maybe they were badly inserted. I don't know. So, but the first day is really, I don't see many clear ones at all. I don't know about other people, or maybe a PC or John or Simon, who collects these kind of things.
Yeah, same here. I have the same experience. And in general, a lot of the offices who use skeleton chops, they're haphazard. Sometimes they're really clear, but more often than not, they've got poor registration.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thanks, Sam. Anybody got anything to show? Okay.
I have some Mui Wo ones, and they are quite clear.
Have you? The Mui Wo on the first day?
21st of May, 63.
Yes.
Very clear.
Very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got a registered one the same day, and that's not as clear.
Okay.
So, no.
Quite different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. Okay. So,
yeah.
Anyone's got anything to show? Okay. Maybe I'll show something. I actually have this back. Where is it? Let me see. Let me see. Yes. Right. I've actually done this for quite a while, but I think because of the time concern, I didn't have time to show it. But this is actually the Well, I know that we have an expert, Sam, sitting there, so he'll probably correct me. And he probably got hundreds of examples of that too. Anyhow.
No, you're the expert.
Anyhow, so you know, what I'm going to talk about is the use of ordinary King George VI stamps as postage dues. It's very, very, very unusual, and you don't see many of these around. But just to give you some background information, you know, the first set of postage dues was released in December 1923 during the King George V period, and it consists of the 1 cent, 2 cent, 4 cent, 6 cent, and 10 cents. And those colors are actually corresponding to the actual adhesive at the time. So interesting. And it was first printed on upright watermark paper, and then the next requisition, it becomes sideways, printed on sideways paper. And the first requisition was, I think, A. I think the second one is B, and it really matches the King George V definitive stamps of the same value at the time. But later on, let me see, right. Okay, next slide. The second issue, which was under requisition V, consists of the same values, but there was a change of colors for the rest. For the 2 cent becomes gray, and the 4 cent becomes orange, the 6 cents becomes scarlet, and 10 cents is mauve. And they were sent in December 1937 and used around say mid-1938. They were still the old stock to be used. And then notice that the top value is the 10 cent, which perhaps at that time was adequate because at that time, that was just before the advent of the airmail. And so the sea mail, normally, you know, if you have postage dues, you don't have a huge amount on it. So later on, you've got some new values like the 8 cent, the 20 cents, and there was actually printed during the war and on like unsurfaced paper. I think which colloquially we call it rough paper, but it's actually I think that it was not as smooth. We call it rough paper during the war and delivered after the war in January 1946. And then the top value at that time after the war was 50 cents, and that's all. So now the problem here is that with airmail, with underpaid airmails, we could go up to dollars and several dollars. You're going to have a lot of these stamps, all the postage dues on the cover. So what happened? Okay, so why use of definitive stamps to collect postage dues? Well, two possible reasons. One is there's insufficient stock of postage dues. I mean, if you look up the records, I mean, the postage dues were not sent in great number. I mean, it's usually maybe a few hundred sheets. I mean, not as certainly never as many as the regular postage stamps. So they were not sent in great quantities, and reprinting were frequent. And then, of course, the other reason is maybe a large amount to be collected. So we just imagined if the postage due was say $2, I mean, you know, and if 10 cents you will have 10 cents on the, if the envelope was small, then you have to completely plaster the envelope with the postage dues. Okay, so now this one is actually it's the Empire Airmail scheme, under Empire Air scheme. Okay, sending from London, actually Edinburgh to Hong Kong, Kowloon, Hong Kong, were underpaid for letter paid one halfpenny for half ounce, assessed as double weight. So and of course including the penalty, the penalty would be doubled, the deficiency. It was sent to Kowloon, so it was processed at Kowloon delivery office, and the Kowloon delivery office slapped 30 cents, 3 10-cent stamps. Why? But surely the 10 cents at that time they would have 10 cents postage dues. Why regular postage stamps being used? Now, perhaps it was because I think the main stock of the postage dues labels were held in the GPO, and probably Kowloon, they didn't have a large stock, and they could have run out of them, and then they had to stick something on as a postage due. Okay, so the next, see, if you look at the date, it says 9th of January. See, the next dispatch with the 10 cent postage dues, etc., was under requisition X, and it was not until February. So perhaps it's the reason why they use regular postage stamps instead of postage due. So if you look at the next one, yes, the same here. Again, 1939 from Gold Coast. Looks a bit philatelic. It probably is philatelic. I mean, some stamp collector went to the Gold Coast and decided to send some postage due letter back home, and noticed the wrong spelling or hong, and then of course it was underpaid. It's got a T there, the Gold Coast T, and then it was charged 40 cents. And again, it was March, perhaps it was March, in the late March. The dispatch, as I said before, it was the 24th of February. Of course, the new 10 cents would have arrived, but maybe it wasn't delivered to the Kowloon post office at the time. Not sure, but anyway, so that's an example of its use. Okay, and then the next one. Now this is, as you can see, high amount. So you've got a November 1939 AML letter from Gibraltar, sent after the end of Empire AML scheme. Paying the 1 shilling 3 rate per half ounce. So it was only 4 pence paid. So it was underpaid by 9 pence. So it's quite a lot. So that upon arrival, the Kowloon again to the Kowloon branch office charged $1.80. Okay, by this time, the Kowloon office would have had a supply of postage dues. But of course, if you talk about $1.80, it means the small envelope, you will have the whole back of the cover, maybe even the front completely covered with 18 10 cents postage due. So perhaps they decided just to put some regular stamps on to collect the dues instead. Right. So this is another example. This one is from India. Again, was AML and was underpaid AML. And the GPO, this one's to Hong Kong. So the GPO charged $1.50. So again, as you probably realize that, $1.50, meaning that you would have 15 10 cents, and it's only a small envelope. Maybe they decided just to use up the regular stamps instead of postage dues. Okay, now this is a huge cover. But interestingly, this was sent to Cape Town by sea, and it's got a censored mark, and then it was not. I couldn't find the sender, and it was actually returned to Hong Kong, and it's got a very interesting return letter due. I mean, they have to pay postage dues upon the return of the letter. So this is very unusual. I haven't seen anything like that before. And then of course, it's used a commemorative stamp, the $1.40 postage. You can see if you turn this round, flip this over, you can see liability for underpaid or insufficient postage. It is provided in section 21 of the Post Office Ordinance that in any case where the postage of the letter posted to Hong Kong has not been paid by the sender or is insufficient, and the letter cannot for any reason delivered, the sender must, when returned to him, pay the deficient postage. So it was sent on a ship, so it's actually got a packable mark, the South African packable mark, but of course it was text, but it couldn't. Unfortunately, Mr. Moon was not to be found, and it was just returned to Hong Kong. And the sender, who was the sender? The sender, I think it was a member of the Hong Kong University. I think had to pay the dues to collect to receive this the photograph. It's a photograph. I think it must be a large photograph from a studio. So, and then of course this one I have to ask Ingo. You know, what was the correct rate for sending the airmail letter to Hong Kong in 1947? I mean, obviously the 7th cent airmail stamp was just not sufficient, and it was noted by the Canadian Post Office and the due taxed accordingly. And upon arrival, because of the amount of $1.80, they use the regular stamps to pay the postage dues. So yes, that's right. That is the question that perhaps our Canadian Ingo or John could probably answer. You know, what was the airmail postage from Canada to Hong Kong at that time? Or Sam probably knows. Okay. And then this is another one, the 1947 underpaid airmail letter from South Africa to Hong Kong, and it was an underpaid letter, and then of course it was actually a mixture of postage dues plus the regular postage stamp, just to pay for the $1.80 fine. And this is actually quite interesting person, actually, a well-known surgeon, actually, in Queen Mary's Hospital, working in Queen Mary's Hospital. So I think this may be the last slide I've got. Yes. Right, okay, so that's just my little accumulation over the last couple of decades or something. So any comments? Sam?
Interesting.
Yes.
The one that you were referring to, Hong Kong U, Helena May is a residence on Garden Row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Helena May Institute, yeah.
Yeah.
So because I used to live in Astoria Court, so that's just south of me on Garden Row. So.
Yes.
Thank you. Fantastic. I love it. I need to give you a heart because I love the material. Thank you for showing me.
Yeah, this is bigger than A4. This is a huge, great thing, and it's very hard to store, you know. and then just to have this piece actually fold over just to show what's on the back, you know. And I'm so afraid of actually, you know, tearing it, you know, off the cover. But anyhow, so yeah, that
no, you should have entered into the Y Club, you know.
I'll give you a chance. Right. Okay.
Do it next year.
Yeah, do it next year.
I won't enter anything.
Yeah.
I'll enter something that is not going to win. So
no, this is too modern to win the hearts of the members. You see. Anyhow, so you know, thanks for your heart anyway. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, it's just a little collection where you just don't often find these things around. Well, now and then, you know, you might find one amongst the dealers, or maybe if you are so lucky on eBay, if you don't get thrashed by certain collectors. Anyway, okay, thanks. So, okay, I shall take it off and yes. Right.
Andrew, well, that was very, very good.
Yeah.
And following on from Duncan's excellent presentation earlier, I rummaged around and I found 2 covers that might fit in with his one if you want to see them.
Sure, please.
Right. Oh God. Technology has left me behind. So here is a $1.15 ml cover. Quite an extensive correspondence, this Brooks Bank correspondence, but this one was the same as the one that Duncan showed, Daedalus being shot or forced down, should we say, and shot out and forced down in November 39. And this one is dated 28th of January 39. And this was under feeder service to Bangkok with Delia was shot at. This was even before World War II. It was shot at by the Japanese in the same area. There were two planes both carried mail. So it's not, I cannot tell you that this was on the Delia that were shot at, because it may have been on, I think it was Daedalus, I think. I can't quite remember.
Richard, it's not showing. It is the August cover is not showing. You still have the November cover on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're just seeing the November 6th cover.
Oh, okay.
You might have to stop sharing. You might have to stop sharing and then do it again.
Here we go. Yeah. Thank you, Sam. How's that?
Yep.
That's 28th of January, 39.
Yep.
15 cents, of course. All up cover to London. And this one could have been on the Delia, but it was on the service that was fired at by the Japanese. Let's see if this works. You see this?
Nope.
My ability with technology is shining through.
You only have young people in the house.
Oh, they're all gone, man.
Yeah.
They don't live very far away, but okay. This is the story of the January 1939. Sorry, it was Delia and Dinabola that were the service. Delia went out first and was shot at as she passed Waichau Island, which is the same area that Daedalus was forced down. But in all probability, it was a Japanese vessel. He then warned Dinabola, and they steered clear. But already at that time, Imperial Airways, because the Japanese were setting themselves up at various places along the China coast, including around there, associated with pressurizing Indochina, then Imperial Airways already informed all their flights to Japanese. There you go.
Good. Thanks.
Richard, just to share with you, and Duncan, just to share with you a comment one of the judges made about my airmail exhibit. He said, you know, this is the FIP president. I asked him to, Bernie, look, I said, Bernie, look at my airmail exhibit. And his comment is, there's no research. And I said, I can't do any research. Duncan and Richard have done all of it. How could I add anything to it, right? So Prep Cop, the next time you judge with him, tell him that, the experts out there, they've written the books many years ago. So how could I do any more research on it? So it's just like, doing German philately. Everything about German postal history has been written. So how could you do research on it, right? So, thank you, Richard. And thanks, Duncan, for all your work.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody got anything to show? Let's see. PC? Simon? Okay.
Nothing for me. No time to prepare anything.
Okay.
I haven't got anything either.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Right. Okay. So, well, in that case, well, just before we wrap up, Lee actually sent an email to me this afternoon regarding some. I think in Callahan, I think they have a Spanish-American war collection auction in a few days' time. And he said that there are a lot of covers that are actually related to Hong Kong. So if you wish to spend some money buying some nice covers, please go and take a look. The other is, of course, in a few days, I think on the 20th or 21st of September, there's a sale in Europe, in Germany, the Kohler sale. And it's on a collection of via Trieste covers, and there are maybe 6 or 7 via Trieste covers to various parts of Europe. Of course, with quite a high estimates, but you're inclined to spend some money, you can take a look too. And what else? It seems to me that I'm sort of I like to spend my spare time actually looking at eBay. It appears to me that I don't know what's happened to eBay, that there seems to be either the search engine have broken down, or maybe there are really people are not actually putting things up for sale. I haven't been actually found much interesting material in the last maybe a month or so after they actually switched the paying system from PayPal to I think Payoneer or something. So I don't know whether you guys have any experience with that in about during the last month or so.
Yes, it's similar. I mean, there's still some interesting stuff coming up.
Yes.
But they're absolutely crazy prices.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, here.
There's less good material coming up.
Yeah.
I didn't see what it went for, but yesterday there was a cover which was $3.65, which is a hybrid rate to UK via the USA, a wartime one. They are quite difficult to get hold of, but it hadn't even got anywhere near finishing, and it was over 400 quid.
Really?
It went for £384.50, Richard.
Really?
Oh, was it 380?
£384.50. I was watching it this lunchtime.
Okay. So I must.
Was it a first day one or
no,
anything?
It's just a difficult to find rate because the 15% went up the following February to 20. So it's short-lived. It's August to February, but no, not that much.
So I must be missing all that. I must be looking at the wrong eBay site.
It's a British dealer selling it.
It's our mate.
Right. Okay.
Cover story.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes. He's always got some nice stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes up good stuff.
But never cheap.
Nah.
How about that Hong Kong guy from Hemel Hempstead?
Don't know him.
You know,
yes.
There's a guy that sells a lot of Hong Kong stamps. He's actually from Hong Kong. He lives in Hemel Hempstead.
Pious.
A Pious Chan or something, yeah.
Yes, oh,
Yeah.
Now he seems to be a Chan, Chan something, Chan's to
Chan family.
Something.
Chan family.
That's right, there's a Chan's, yeah. So he used to have a lot of good stuff, but it seems to be completely quiet at the moment.
Quiet for a while.
Yeah, quiet
But
for a
he
while.
seemed to be he was telling me that he just go around the UK buying big lots. So that's what he does. So, you know.
Maybe he's been stuck at home.
Yeah, stuck at home and can't view, I guess. So.
Yeah.
I think a lot of cover storage material belonged to Basil Lewis. His collection was sold by a fine art auctioneer called Assembly.
Oh.
With very little knowledge round the study circle. We got one or two things out of it because a friend pointed us in the direction, but he bought 2 or 3 big lots in there, did.
It wasn't properly illustrated.
And wasn't well described.
So I remember Basil, yes. He had a lot of good things.
I think he died about a year ago.
But he died. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it was his estate selling up, and I assumed they had artworks and furniture as well.
Oh,
It simply
okay. Yes, I remember Basil, yes. Okay, yeah. All right. So anybody want another theme for the next month meeting? Can anybody suggest anything? How about postage dues? Sam would be delighted.
No, but not next week, next month, the month afterwards.
The month after.
That would be the 80th. The month after, November or December. Now, December is obvious, but that's the 80th anniversary of C.Force coming to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, either November, the arrival, or December, if we have a meeting.
Yeah.
So if somebody else besides me put something about the Battle of Hong Kong,
I'll do that.
Anything.
I can do that.
Richard,
sure.
please, yeah.
Yeah,
please.
that would.
I have a load of stuff on.
Yes, that would be very nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
you
John.
For next month.
Yeah,
for
John. No, November.
November.
John and Simon. Yeah, that's why not October, but November. Simon.
November. Yeah. Okay. We can do that. Yes.
So who collects Japanese occupation besides Osati?
John.
In Hong Kong. John. Okay, John, please. Some Jap Ark, some Battle of Hong Kong.
Yes. We can actually do a double show. We can do it in October and November as well, if you like.
Sure.
Yeah. Part 1 and part 2. I think there are too many things.
Something on detained. I can do a presentation on detained covers if you want.
Okay. So
yes,
so PC would be delighted to write something on the newsletter about the part 1 and part 2 about Japanese occupation. Yes.
And Battle of Hong Kong.
And the Battle of Hong Kong. And the Battle of Hong Kong.
80th anniversary.
Yes. Okay. Good.
All right.
Good. Yes, we've decided that. All right. Anyway, nice seeing all of you. And of course, I would like to thank Dr. Prokop, the president of FIAP, and also the secretary, Jasmine, for setting this up and letting us use the facilities. And and of course, participations of all of you. And well, may I just wish everybody a happy Mid-Autumn Festival, which I actually have prepared a mooncake here. This is the actual mooncake, the proper size mooncake, and now because of the health concern, they produce a mini mooncake like that.
Fewer calories.
Now, Andrew, did
Yes.
you use the money the government give you to spur, consumption?
Yeah, that's right. So that's what you,
PC and Simon and John, they got free money from the government just to spend. What kind of a government is that?
I spent everything already.
Yeah. We're waiting for the second allocation.
Long time ago.
I saw there's a big lineup of old people who couldn't get their second certificate or something, right?
Yeah.
There was a big lineup.
Yep. The procedure is too complicated, and it really is. It's the online is complicated, and even if you write a form, if you forgot to sign or put in the wrong date or something, you get disqualified.
Okay,
Yeah.
Don't tell people, but I got it too.
You got it too.
In Canada.
Well done. Anyway, okay, so thank you.
Andrew, if you tried to buy your mooncakes in London,
Yeah.
Hong Kong government didn't give you enough money.
No. All right. So well, thanks for everybody for joining. And have a nice day and nice evening, and good night to our friends.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.